Brought to you by Penguin.
The Dust That Falls from Dreams by Louis de Bernières, read by David Sibley and Avita J. 1. The Coronation Party. This was the day that Daniel vaulted the wall. Not many weeks previously, the tiny queen had begun to lose her appetite. In Marseille, President Kruger of South Africa, fleeing into exile laden with wealth stolen from his own people, raised the rabble to new frenzies of anti-Britishness, and hotels where British travellers were thought to be staying were besieged. The Queen grew drowsy. She'd never before shown any lapse of energy or attention, but now she nodded off, even at crucial moments. She received a letter from a boy bugler in the Devons, telling her how he had been the one to sound the charge at Wagon Hill, and she managed to reply to it. The Queen travelled from London to Osborne House on the Isle of Wight. She loved it there and had long considered it to be her real family home. She had her own little beach with a bathing hut, and there was a miniature house where her children, now scattered across Europe, used to play when Albert was still alive. Across the Solent, she could visit the vast military hospital that she'd set up at Netley, bringing the scarves that she'd like to knit for the wounded soldiers. The Queen found that she could not speak when the Brazilian ambassador came to present his credentials. She was forgetting how to talk. She failed to recognise Lord Roberts when he returned in triumph from South Africa in order to become the new commander-in-chief. He was bewildered and grief-stricken. The Queen performed her last great imperial act and proclaimed the establishment of the Commonwealth of Australia. Her visit to the Riviera was cancelled, and the keeper of the Privy Purse was obliged to pay out £800 in compensation to the Hotel Chimiers. It had been so long since the death of a sovereign that no one knew what to say or how to behave. Lord Salisbury refused to talk about the accession ceremonies because it was too upsetting. The well-to-do cancelled their dinner parties and balls, and the frivolous optimism that had accompanied the arrival of a new century evaporated. It was January, and the dark clouds that wept rain onto the land complemented the mood of the people beneath them. The Queen's relatives and descendants converged on Osborne from all over Europe. In South Africa, the war that was supposed to have been won already was carried on by Botha, Smuts and De Wet. Money and young men continued to be expended. The British troops were killed mainly by enteric fever. The tiny Queen died. The Lord Mayor of London was informed, and then the rest of the world. Whilst the nation lay stunned, the great argued about what should be done next. Lord Acton announced that King Edward VII could not call himself Edward VII because he was not descended from previous Edwards. Did the Lord Mayor of London count as an ex officio member of the Privy Council? He decided that he did, and gate-crashed it. Who was in charge of the funeral? Was it the Lord Chamberlain or the Duke of Norfolk, even though he was a Catholic? The Duke insisted on his historic right, and the King conceded. Lady Cadogan received an invitation to the interment that was intended for her husband, in which she was requested to come wearing trousers. The Queen's coffin was so minute that it might have been that of a child. King Edward and the Kaiser walked behind it as it was drawn through cows. It came across the Solent in a battleship, flanked by the greatest fleet in the world. In London, the route from Victoria Station to Buckingham Palace, then Paddington Station, was blocked solid with mourners hoping to see the great procession of the gun carriage. Behind it rode King Edward, flanked by the Duke of Connaught and Kaiser Wilhelm, followed by the handsome and slim Crown Prince of Germany, the embodiment of hope for his nation, the guarantor of its great future as a beacon of civilization. The Queen's body was laid to rest at Windsor. The grandmother of Europe had gone, and everyone knew as if by instinct that a momentous era had suddenly ended. She left behind railways that ran at 60 miles an hour, with carriages that nowadays had roofs on them. Vast liners across the Atlantic in 2 weeks.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?